Flip to Freedom, episode number 42. Hello again, this is Sean Terry from the Flip to Freedom podcast, and we are on episode number 42. Now, if you're joining us for the very first time, I'd like to welcome you and let you know that I have put this podcast together for you to help you escape the 9-to-5 and live the lifestyle of your dreams by learning how you can make an absolute fortune flipping properties in your spare time. Even if you're brand new, you're just getting started today, you have no cash, no credit, and no experience. This podcast is about you replacing your full-time income. The goal is this, is to get 1 year's worth of your income in the bank as fast as humanly possible. Then it will give you an option to quit your job or do whatever you want to do. If you want to take a vacation or take trips or just take the stress off of the whole daily grind and being worried about if you're going to have a job tomorrow because all the economic layoffs and everything that's happening. So that's what this podcast is about. It's about flipping properties in your spare time, and that's what we do. Now, this particular episode, we're going to talk about ninja negotiating tactics. And I think you're going to love this episode because I've been talking to a lot of people lately, and they want to hear about negotiation and how to negotiate with sellers, how to negotiate with buyers. And there is definitely a learned, tricks of the trade that you can use in your business to get better results. So in this particular episode, we're going to talk about how to negotiate with motivated sellers. We're going to drill down and try to get to the lowest price possible with these sellers. We're also going to talk about how to negotiate seller finance deals. We're also going to figure out how to negotiate with cash buyers and how to get the highest price possible working with them. And also we're going to talk about how to negotiate the sell side contract. The contract, once you get a contract, right, and you have a contract with a buyer and you have a contract with a seller, how do you negotiate and make the spread bigger after the fact? I'm also going to share with you an $18,000 case study, which I think you're absolutely going to love. We actually just closed on it yesterday, so we're pretty excited about that. Now, also, too, I want to thank the people that actually went into iTunes and submitted a review. And they actually went in, searched the flip2freedom.com podcast inside the iTunes store, and they went in and they submitted a review. So the next one is is from The Wealthy One on March 5th, 2011, and said that I have been listening to Sean's podcast for about 2 weeks, and I've learned more from him than sitting in expensive classes. He gives real-world action steps I can apply now. Can't wait to write back and tell him about my first deal. Thanks, Sean. And the heading is applicable info. Now, he gave me a 4-star review, which is my first 4-star review. So, Wealthy One, if you're listening, let me know what I have to do to earn your 5th star, and I will do whatever it takes. So, anyways, I appreciate for you going in there and submitting that. I really do appreciate you taking the time to do that. All right. Now, if you want to get my free book, I wrote a 129-page comprehensive blueprint on exactly how to quit your job in 19 weeks or less, exactly how to replace your income in 19 weeks or less. And it's detailed. I've had people tell me they spent over $1,000 for similar information that I give away for free. Now, if you want to get this book, you can go to flip2freedom.com, flip2freedom.com. You'll see a video of me on the front page. There'll be a place where you can put your email, and I will email you a special link where you can download this book for free. All right, now let's get into the meat, negotiation. Now, I can tell you negotiation is probably one of my most favorite things. I love getting the call from the motivated seller and finding out they're motivated, pulling all together the data and going in and negotiating with them. I just love it. It's just it's fun. I guess it's fun doing. Anyways, especially if you know what you're doing. If you know specifically what you're doing, it makes life a lot easier. Then you can go in knowing what you need to be at. All right. Now, first off, I want to talk about negotiation attitude. Before we even can get into tactics, before we can get into exactly specifics on what to do and different tips and tricks, we have to first figure out, we have to have an attitude, right? You know, and the best way I can explain it is this, is that dogs smell fear. Humans smell neediness, okay? Now, when you walk in to an appointment with a motivated seller, if you need to get that deal, there is a good chance they can sense that and you're not going to get it, okay? So what has to happen is you have to put yourself in a frame of mind that you don't need the deal. So how do you do that? Picture what it would be like, how you would feel, how you would act if you had, say, $100,000 cash in the bank, or $200,000, or $500,000, depending on whatever situation you're in. So let's say you have, theoretically, $100,000 cash in the bank. Okay, and guess what? If you needed, if you got a contract on this deal that you're negotiating with a seller, great. If you don't, who cares? Because we're golfing tomorrow. Do you see what I'm saying? So the thing is you have to have, this almost like it's not I don't care mentality, but it's I don't need this mentality. If they want to do it, great. If they don't want to do it, that's fine. And if you have that attitude going in, people will sense it, they'll feel it, just like a dog can smell fear, and then they will move toward you instead of away from you. Okay, so that's it. Have to have attitude. Put yourself in that state of mind. Now, the next thing is this, is what's called a relaxed intensity. Okay, a relaxed intensity is where you are intense, meaning this. You know specifically what price you have to be at. You know exactly what your motive is walking in. You know exactly what your goal is walking in. But you're relaxed, you're loose, you're not uptight, and you just kind of go with the flow, but focused. Okay. Now let me give you an example. I work with a gentleman here. His name's Michael. Hey, Michael, how you doing? And he is a classic definition of someone who is not relaxed. And I love his passion, love his excitement, love his motivation, but he is very intense, very, I'm just going to make it happen. And what happens is when you have that type of just raw intensity, it's almost like you push it away. And I'll give you an example. Let's say, have you ever seen a picture of this in your mind? A nice, placid, very placid, calm lake. The lake is very calm. It's placid. It's about 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning. The sun is just rising. And you have this lake, and it's just, there's not a ripple in this lake. It's just like glass. And picture a beach ball that's inside this lake. Okay? And your goal is to get that beach ball to come to you. Now, there's a couple different ways you can do it, right? You could swim after it very relaxed, but intense. You're focused. You know what you want to get. You got to get the ball. And you can swim toward it, and slowly get up to the ball and then grab the ball. Or the other type of person that has no relaxed intensity, they would be jump in the water and swim 100 miles an hour, splashing their feet, splashing their arms, kicking, and they'd be splashing as hard as they can to try to go get this ball. But what's going to happen? The waves that were created, the intensity of the splash in the water will push that ball away every single time. So what you want to do is you want to get the ball / motivated seller to come to you. So you have a relaxed intensity, but you're focused on exactly what you need to accomplish. Okay? Now, this is the first rule. Okay, I got a couple rules. Rule of thumb is this: never, ever say the number first. Okay, you'll hear sellers. Now, I'm talking about negotiating when you're negotiating either on the phone or like doing a soft pass is what I call it if you listen to previous episodes. Or I'm talking about when you are actually on site and you're meeting with the seller. Never give a first number. And if you have to give a first number, if they're stubborn and say, hey, listen, just make me an offer, then your number, make sure it's lower, a lot lower than you plan on. I usually put an absolute lowball number out there, and instantly you're going to see the reaction. They go, oh, I can't sell it for that. But listen, you establish a number, and what's going to happen? They're going to reciprocate on that number, and they're going to have to now name their number. Now, if you come out and you want to get the property, going in, you want to get the property for $50,000 per se, then what you want to do is obviously not offer $50,000, right? When you're talking, because that number is going to go up. So if it was me, I'd offer in the 25 to 30, usually anywhere from 30 to 50% below the number that you need to be for your first number if you have to talk about that number. Okay, so that is the thing. When you have to name a number, make sure it's low. And then what they're going to do is they're going to reciprocate with a number. Now their number is what's going to happen is their number, they're going to recheck their mind and they're going to recalculate, and maybe their number is going to be lower, which will create a tighter spread for you, meaning that you'll be closer to a meeting of the minds. Okay? All right, so now, next step, always go for the deal. The wholesale deal first. See, when I market for motivated sellers, I'm marketing with properties with equity. Okay, all the properties I market have equity. I don't market for short sales or anything like that. So all the deals that I do have equity. So I'm always going for the wholesale deal. Okay, now unless they have a mortgage in place, and then it becomes a seller finance deal, which we'll talk about here shortly. But the bottom line is this: is that always go for the wholesale deal, and then if the wholesale deal, you can't get a meeting of the minds with a wholesale deal, then you can move into the seller finance deal, which we'll talk about. Now, negotiating with a seller. First off, you got to be prepared prior to the appointment. Okay, you hear all success trainers and everything. It says you got to be prepared. You got to be prepared before your appointments. Well, it's the 100% truth. If you walk into an appointment not knowing where you need to be, then forget it. Okay, you're going to get annihilated. This is what I do. First off, I print out all the comparable sales. I know exactly where I need to be. I know exactly what the after repair value is. I know exactly what the lowest comps in the neighborhood are for properties that are available or that have sold in the neighborhood. I know everything that's active on the market within the neighborhood, the direct subdivision that's around there. So I have all that information. So I have a little folder before I go on this appointment, and I have a letter of authorization if they have a loan on the property. So I type a lien, I can get them to sign a letter of authorization so my title company can actually pull that payoff. I also have the lowest of low comparable sales. I try to find the lowest within a 1 mile radius of the subject property within the last 90 to 120 days. And I want the lowest of the low. Okay. Now, the second thing that you want is a purchase contract that's pre-filled out. Now, you don't have to have it pre-filled out with the address and everything like that. What I do is have it 90% filled out, and all I got to do is fill in the address, and that's it. Okay, so I have it all already pre-filled out and ready to go. And also, so I have the comps. I have the tax information, so I can get the tax, so I know exactly that I have the right parcel number. I have the right, legal description. I have the right owner's name that's on title. So I have all that in my folder prior to going to an appointment. Then on the way to the appointment, I'm driving the neighborhood. I'm going to drive around the neighborhood, and I'm going to look at all the available properties for sale. Now, a great app, iPhone app. You see, if you have an iPhone, this is great, because what I do when I'm driving the neighborhood, there's an app that actually just came out. You got to check it out. It's called the Hold on, checking my phone. It's called SIR Mobile, Sotheby's. It's an app for Sotheby's, and it will pull everything on the MLS that's around you. So if you're driving in a neighborhood, it will pull your location, and it will basically tell you exactly what is for sale in your neighborhood, which is perfect. That's exactly what you're looking for. You're looking for something for sale. So this is what you don't want. You don't want to negotiate with a motivated seller, get it under contract price that's higher than what's available in the current marketplace, because as soon as you tell a buyer to go check out the property, guess what they're going to do? They're going to pull MLS, comparable sales. They're going to drive the neighborhood and going to say, wait a minute here, I can buy the house better down the street for less money. Well, guess what? You'll never sell that property. Okay, so you have to know what's going on in the neighborhood. So yeah, have everything together, and you are driving the neighborhood, okay? And you got to be prepared on that appointment. Now, you should know two different things. Number one, should know specifically exactly where you need to be to get in contract. That's your focus. That's your relaxed intensity. That's where you need to be. So you can't go any higher than that number, or you're going to be in jeopardy of not being able to sell the property or making money on it, okay? So you have to know that number. The second thing is that you have to know for seller financing. You got to know exactly where you need to be for seller financing to make the deal work. So you kind of have that structured in your head, and you can have it pre-written down prior to going in. For me, I just, when I'm driving the neighborhood and I'm pulling the stuff together, I'll just jot a note on the inside of my folder of where I need to be cash and where I need to be with seller financing, and that is just a reminder for me so I don't get off focus, so I know exactly what I'm doing. Now, knowing the neighborhood and comps, have to do that. That's a must. Now, when you're negotiating, what you want to do is take the lowest, absolutely lowest of the low, comparable sales, sold properties, and potential properties that are active. Okay? Because what's going to happen is, you're going to have a motivated seller, and I don't show that to them right away. Okay, I'm not going in there, and I'm not going to, I'm going to say here's the lowest comparable sales. I'm going to keep it in my folder just in case. Okay, and I'm using it specifically for a backup to get them in check if they're way out of whack. Now, typically, what I teach is to do a soft pass on the phone on a ballpark number prior to going on the appointment, so you're not going on to an appointment with a dead lead. I mean, I remember this one lady, she was super sweet, and she says, oh, just come and see my house. It's in great condition. I know you'll love it. And I kind of did a soft pass. I was like, the comps is, we're going to be around this number, depending on the condition. Oh, just come. She must have not heard me. I don't know. I don't know if her hearing aid was in or not, but the bottom line is that I drove all the way out to this house. I walked in, did all my research, drove the neighborhood, walked into the house, built rapport, and sat down, and she thought her house, the comps were like 175, and she wanted 275. She was $100,000 off. I was like, you got to be kidding me. And I kind of brought out the comps and showed it to her. So what I teach is try to do a soft pass on the phone. So once you get to the appointment, there is, you're in a pretty good, you're dealing with a motivated seller in the fact that you've kind of already established a baseline price. But let's say you haven't. Let's say you didn't do that. Let's say you're going on the appointment, you didn't do a soft pass, you're just going there, because you want to get experience or whatever. Well, what's going to happen is you're going to first off figure out what they're looking for. You want to find out. And it's just by asking. That's after building rapport. Now, let me back up. Another rule of thumb: you have to build rapport. Don't even think about talking numbers until you build rapport. And you have to build rapport to a certain level of almost where you almost can almost kid with them. I mean, it's almost like where you can build it. Once you build it, you'll know, because you're building enough rapport, and you can start kind of. I kind of joke with people. You know what I mean? And I make just funny comments or something like that. So, and I kind of break the ice, but get them to a certain point where you're connecting with them. You're building that level of rapport. Then, when it comes down to negotiating, you're on a better level. So how, and I could do another whole podcast on building rapport, but let's just get to the basics. How do you build rapport? Well, you build rapport by asking questions, okay? And listening to what the other person has to say intently. Okay? Asking questions, and then you're looking for a connection point. You're looking for something that you can connect with them with or relate with. Okay? So when you are building this rapport, you want them to start talking about themselves. And what you're doing while you're asking the strategic questions you're looking for the hot button. What's their hot button? Their hot button is maybe they're divorced and they just want to get out of the house and they don't want to deal with the husband. Maybe they just inherited the house and they just got to get rid of it because they don't want to pay the taxes. Maybe there's a lien on the property from a city violation lien and they're getting breathed down their neck and they have a court date coming up. Maybe they have was a rental property and they have someone bust in and ripped all the copper out of the place because copper prices are high and people go in and do that to steal copper, and they just don't know what to do with it, and they just don't want any more people to break into the thing, and they got to get rid of it. So I've heard it all, believe me. So you're looking and asking questions. You're building a connection and figuring out the connection with the rapport. But then while you're doing that is you're gathering data. You're not really writing it down. You're gathering data to try to find the hot point. Okay? Once you find that hot point, then you can keep striking that hot point. Then when it comes to negotiation, you're bringing in you're solving that problem for them, and it makes negotiating a lot better. Okay, so now let's get back to that. So we've got all the information, and what we're going to do is we have all the lowest comps in the neighborhood. We got all that type of stuff. We built the rapport. We know exactly where we need to be. Now, what you want to do is you want to know this going in, that when you're, if they come back and they say, you're asking for a number after you build the rapport, you say, hey, what are you looking to get for this? You know what the property's worth. What would you, if we could close fast, with cash and close quickly, and you don't have to do anything with the property, what's the minimum amount of cash you take? All those standard, questions that are to find or fish for an offer is what people want. Now, if they're absolutely just, and they come out and say, well, I need $50,000, but you need to be at $40,000, then what you do is then you can bring out the low comparable sales that will show sales around the, $40,000 range, or even could be even $45,000 range. And what you do is then you can start backing out and just say, listen, if you were going to list this property, this is what you can list it for. I mean, I could buy a house around the corner for $50,000, so if you're going to turn around and list this property with a real estate agent, well, first off, you're going to have to pay a real estate agent both sides. You're talking 6% commission. Then you get 2% for closing costs, because you got to pay your own side of closing costs. Then you get, guess what? That's if you get a full price offer. But guess what? No one in this market offers full price. I mean, think about it. After you sell this house and you go turn around and you want to buy a house, you're not going to offer full price, are you? Of course not. No one else does either. The average is about 95% of the value of the listing price. So there's 5% there coming right off the top, and then you're gonna have people are going to do inspections on the property. They're going to come in and they're going to basically hold you to the fire to pretty much fix everything, which is going to cost money, typically around 2 to 3%. So it's roughly about 15 to 16% off that price initially of the lowest comp. Now you want to make sure when you do those calculations that the number comes out to the number that you need to be on that property, okay, or lower, preferably. And then that's kind of give them the logic of exactly where you need to be. And if you build enough rapport with them and explain it to them that obviously, hey, we're pretty much paying full price. If you were going to list it tomorrow, this is exactly what you would net at the end of it. But this is the thing, Sally. It might take you 6 months. It might take you 8 months. Here, guess what? You don't have to fix anything. You don't have to deal with it. You're still going to net the same number, and bam, we can turn around and close this on this thing quickly. So why would you want to wait 8 months? And guess what? They're going to come back and say, well, maybe you're right. So what's 8 months worth to you? Especially if you built the rapport and you found out time is their most important hot button. Well, guess what, man? I'd be hitting time all day long. Well, think about it. You want to wait 8 months, Sally, for this thing to sell, do you? No, of course not. You want to sell this thing now, don't you? Now, I could get into tie down closes, and I don't. We could save that for another episode as well. Tie down closes is when you ask, shouldn't you, wouldn't you, couldn't you, and those are asking questions that you know the answer to, which I just did with Sally. You want to sell this quick, don't you? Yep. And what you're going to say, yes. And obviously, if you can get 7 yeses, you can get a closer to a close. Now, you do want to do this, don't you? You want to make this happen fast, don't you? So when you ask those tie-down questions, you know the answer to them, and you can take them through a process. It's a little bit more advanced negotiation tactics using tie-downs, but I literally use it without even thinking about it, honestly. I mean, I'm going in and talking to a seller. I talk to him just like I told you, and I just pretty much tie down, knowing the answer to the question, leading him. It's leading questions and leading him to where I need them to be on the sale. So that's a little more advanced. We'll get into that in the later episodes. Now let's talk about drilling down to the lowest number. Okay, you go through this whole percentages and all this type of stuff, and you come out with a number, and they go, I just can't, I know $34,000 for whatever, I need to be at, 40, right? They're going to come back with that, and they're going to negotiate. Now, you're close. She wanted 50, you got her down to 40, you need to be at 34. Hey, now you got a $6,000 differential. You're getting close, right? So then, what you do is, you make the face. $40,000? Can't do $40,000. I mean, think about it. If you're going to sell it tomorrow, Sally, it's going to take you 6 months. You're not going to get $40,000. What makes you think you can get $40,000? And I'm an investor. Okay? I said it's going to put me in a position where I'm not going to make any money. I mean, obviously you want a win-win situation, don't you? And what she's going to say is, yeah. I said, great. Well, obviously at $40,000, it's going to be possibly a win for you. It's going to be a win for you, but it's not going to win for me. You don't want to have that happen, do you? And she's going to go, no. So I mean, it's by building that. Now what's going to happen is this, is you're $6,000 away. You're going to go back and kind of look at the house, and you're going to fret completely. And then you're going to go back and say, listen, with this and this, and you got to fix this and the roof and this, are you sure that's the best you can do? And you shut up. You don't say another word. Is that the best, Sally? Is that the best you can do? And you don't say a word. Okay? If you say a word, you know what? Cover your mouth. If you have one of your guys with you or something like that, make sure they don't say a word. You can't say anything, okay? So you're just going to cover your mouth. You're going to want to say something because there's going to be silence. And then what's going to happen is they're going to go, well, maybe I could maybe do 37. Oh, Sally, you're still, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I can commit to that, Sally. $37,000. I just, we're in the situation. I mean, the market conditions right now, right? I mean, think about it. I mean, I don't want to commit to $37,000, Sally, and then no, I can't do it because it's going to put in a tough situation. I want to be able to commit and shake your hand and know that I can get this done. Now, you want, obviously, me to be able to commit to that, don't you? And she's going to say, yes. And I say, great, is that the best you can do, Sally? Is 37 the absolute best you can do? And she's going to be, maybe, kind of, sort of, whatever. Who knows? But what's going to happen is there's going to be a point when she's going to throw in the towel and say, that's it. That's no more. Done. I can't do any more. 36.5 is the absolute lowest I can go. And at that point, then you would write the contract. And that would be your wholesale deal. Now, what if you're stuck? What if you're stuck? What if you're at the point where you go through this whole process, right? And they're stuck at 50. Stuck at 50. Right? Well, and you're at 34, and you ask the best you can do, and they're like, and they throw down the towel, and they're like 50,000, that's it. I can't do any more than 50,000. Right? What's going to happen is this. Okay? This is what I do. It's called the Colombo Close. Now, don't laugh. I know you're laughing. Don't laugh. It's called the Colombo Close. And this is what the Colombo Close is. And Colombo used to be, he was a detective back in the day, and what he would always do was he would be asking and interrogating and talking to someone about the particular case he was investigating. He would pack up his stuff, he would leave, he'd be walking out the door, he'd stop and turn, and he would ask the final question. Okay, which was probably the most important question. Now, what's happening in this particular psychology, or what's happening, is the person now has let down their guard to a certain effect. So how does this work in real estate? What happens is that you go, Sally, I'm sorry, I got to be at 34, and you got to be at 40, be at 50. It looks like we can't make something happen. I wish you the best of luck. I think it's a nice house. I think, if you can wait the 8 months and maybe put some money into it, maybe get a good realtor, Sally, you probably sell the property. So, hey, thanks for having us come out here. I greatly appreciate your time. And you start packing up shop. Right? You start packing up. You're zipping up and say, here's my card. If anything does come up, I greatly appreciate it. And you're walking out the door. And now think about it in their mind. They're going, oh, he's done. It's not going to work. Right? And I'm walking out the door. And there's a good probably 30 to a 60-second delay. Okay, as I'm walking out the door. And I said, hey, take care. God bless you later. And I'm walking out. And then I turn around and say, I've even been in the street, get in my car, pull in the car. I turn around, hey, Sally, I got an idea. Would you consider, in this particular situation, if you would offer seller financing? For, say, roughly 3 years, we could give you, say, $5,000 down, $3,000 down, and you carried it. Then you could get your full price, but I could make it work. Would you be interested in something like that? More times than not, it's funny, they will actually say yes, and they'll want to get up and going. All right, so that is the Colombo Close. Now, when you're negotiating with sellers, and you're negotiating seller financing, there's a couple things you want to do. Now, what if that's a seller financing where there's equity? So you're going for the wholesale deal. You can't make a match. They're at $50,000. You're at 34. Then you come back and say, hey, Sally, what would you want to do as a seller financing? Now, what if the house has little to no equity? Then what do you do? Okay. Well, what we're going to do is talk about 5 different options that you would take them down the path. Okay. Now, what this is called is the pain versus pleasure close. Okay. Pain versus pleasure. It's classic. Now, what happens is now, let's say, for example, the house is worth $100,000 and they owe $95,000, right? Well, what we can do is go down the thing. So when we're talking to them and we're meeting them and we're trying to negotiate an agreement for sale, land contract, subject to, or lease option, whatever. Those are the 3 potential negotiating tools that you have in your toolbox. But what we're doing is first off, we're going to find out, and we're going to ask them the simple question, say, listen, if we can't come to an agreement, what's your plan if you don't sell this property? And let them just think about it a little bit. Well, I don't know what my plan is. I got to move out of state because I got this job I just got transferred for, and I don't know what we're going to do with the property. And I said, well, let's think about it. Well, you could foreclose on it and just let the thing go. Because they can't afford 2 different house payments, right? So you could foreclose on it, but that's going to put a ding on your credit. You don't want to do that, and kind of take them down that path of a foreclosure. Now, and what a foreclosure looks like, and what that would do with the impact, and you're hitting that pain. And then you could go, well, you could do a potential short sale. Because think about it, if it's worth $100, probably not going to get a full price offer. You're probably going to get it at $95. Well, the bottom line is, by the time you pay agent fees and real estate commissions and all this other type of stuff, you're going to have to come to the table with money. And if you don't have money to come to the table, then guess what? You might have to ask the bank to do a reduction in price, which is called a short sale. Or short sales typically take 6 months, and there's no guarantee that it can be done. So guess what? What are you hitting? You're hitting the pain button. Okay, so the next thing is you can do absolutely nothing. You could just wait. You could just let it sit here vacant or do whatever. Let's say you have to move out of state for this job transfer and you don't know what to do. You just leave it here, right? Just leave it. Still pay the mortgage, but just leave it. Or the other thing is you could rent the property. Okay, what if you just rent it? So you could turn it into a rental. A lot of people do not want to be a landlord. They don't want to deal with rents. They don't want to deal with toys, especially if they're out of state. So what happens is all these different lists are option A. Okay, follow me on this. Option A. Option A is pain, foreclosure, short sale, renting, just doing nothing, just waiting. That's all pain, 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 pain. Okay, that's option A. Now you want them to step on option B, and option B is your offer to keep the existing $95,000 loan in place for 5 years plus. That's what that's what you want to land on. So when you're negotiating, you're talking about A as what the potential solution could be, and those are all include pain, coming to the table with money, letting it foreclose, holding on to it, which is just pouring money out the door, renting it, dealing with renters. Those are all pain things. You want them to land on B, which is leave the existing loan in place, and oh, by the way, we could probably get you $1,000 to $1,500. How would that sound to you? So once you go through this whole scenario with them, after you built a level of rapport, right, then it's such an easy close. I mean, it's a no-brainer because I closed 90% of those deals doing that exact same technique, is pain versus pleasure. Okay, and that's exactly how you do it. Now, let's talk about negotiating with a buyer. Okay, negotiating with a buyer. Now, when we negotiate with a buyer, this means we have signed the contract with the seller, of course. We've already went through we got Sally's property tied up, right? So now we are excited. We got it for the 32 or 34, whatever the number is, 37, and now 36.5, and now we're going to sell the property, right? And I have previous other episodes on exactly how to do that, but now we're talking specifically about negotiating with a buyer. Now, what you do is you're going to have 4 or 5 or 6 or 10 or 100 or how many ever buyers you have. You're going to call them up and say, listen, I've got a smoking deal under contract. I just got it, and I want to give you first dibs on it before I put it out to the rest of the public. But I need a quick answer on this thing because I've got other people I've got to call, and I've got a short timeline on this thing. So, Bob, the buyer, how quick can you get over there? Oh, I can get over there tomorrow. I say, great. Here's the address. Here's the information of the property. Go check it out. Now, when you're doing your price on this particular, let's say, property we have, we're at 36.5. I would mark it up to 46.5, subject to it makes sense for the marketplace. Okay, mark it up. Maybe, and I would add a couple thousand. So instead of 46.5, you mark it up to say 48.5. You want to give yourself a couple, depending on the price of the house, of course. Give yourself some leeway to negotiate. Remember, a buyer always will come back and negotiate. So you have to appease their satisfaction of getting a better deal. Follow me? So what you do is you price the property higher slightly than what you need to be at. So then when you offer them the price, you have the ability to negotiate down to the number you need in the first place. Now, what does that do? It gives the buyer a win. It gives them a win where they can negotiate down to a certain price. And what does it give you? Your full price that you're asking for. If you start out at the 4610, you're going to essentially be down a couple, $2,000-$3,000 off that number because they're going to want that satisfaction of negotiating with you to get a better price. Okay, so you got to give it to them, but you just want to mark up your price to do it. All right, understood? So that's exactly how you do that. Then what you do is you can do that with all of your buyers. You can call them all up and say, listen, I'm giving you first dibs on it. Get over there as fast as possible. This thing's going to hit to the public, and I'm going to put it out to my entire list here within the next 48 hours. So I need an answer back as fast as humanly possible. Okay, now you got the contract with Sally. Now you got the contract with Bob the buyer, right? How do you maximize profits after that? Well, what you do now is then you wait. You bring them to the title company. They're doing all the title search, pulling all the stuff, getting everything together, getting it ready to close, doing all their stuff. Prior to closing, right? Prior to closing, you do two different things. You want to, number one, go back to Sally the seller and say, hey, listen, you know what? My investment partner that I'm working with, Bob the buyer, that we just went through, and there was way more repairs than we anticipated. Way more repairs than we anticipated. And Sally, I'm sorry, but you know what? We are going to have to be at a lower price. I hate to hear that, or we're going to have to cancel the contract. So we need to be at roughly like $3,000 to make this thing work. Sally, do you want us to proceed at 33 and I can get you an addendum to sign, or would you prefer to cancel the contract and you could sell it to somebody else? Now, I'm going to tell you, that is pretty ruthless. I don't do that all the time. I do that when I know I can, I guess you could say. Now, if Sally is a single mom and she's got to sell her house and whatever, you know what I mean, then, I'm not going to take an extra $3,000 or $4,000 out of her pocket. I'm just not going to do it, okay? Just as the disclaimer. But, if Sally inherited the property and, she comes in driving a Mercedes or whatever, and she inherited the property and she doesn't really need, I'm going to push to get the best price possible. So you got to use your judgment. And like I said, I don't do it on every particular deal. I do it on, deals that need to happen. But you have to use your own judgment on that, okay? So one tactic would be, and use this at your own risk or whatever. One tactic would be is say, hey, listen, the repairs are way more. We got to be at a lower price, or I'm going to cancel. Now, what's going through Sally's head? Sally's going, holy crap! I thought I had the thing sold. I think I was going to get X amount of dollars here, in a couple days, and now I got to start from the beginning. Bam! Lower the price. Okay. The other thing to do in that particular situation is to say, hey, listen, my investment partner, you know what, due to the current economy, due to the current real estate market, due what's going on, we kind of looked at comparable sales and I just blew it. I told you where we need to be on the price, and I just, but he really wants to be at the 33,000 range, or he wants me to cancel. So, and he's my money guy. So you're playing almost like good cop, bad cop type of situation. All right. Now, I'm going to wrap this up, man. This is getting long. Holy cow. Okay. Now, let's talk about the $18,000 case study that we closed on yesterday. Okay. This is the deal. This property came from one of the guys I'm working with here. His name's Mark, and he actually just got up, started. Recently, last time I opened up the Flip to Freedom Academy, contacted me. We met with him. 2 days later, he got a lead that came in from a divorce situation, and on a house in Scottsdale. Great looking house, beat up inside, divorce situation, bad deal, right? And they just wants out of the house. Okay, so we went in. It was worth about $300, $320. Went in, negotiated it, and got the deal under contract for like $195. Okay, so then went back and did that. So now went in and I met him at the property to go and actually walk through the house and go through and meet and negotiate and build rapport and stuff like that. Now we went in, negotiated. I talked to her for 2 hours. 2 hours about everything, about her relationship. I mean, I felt like I don't think I said, I asked 10 questions in 2 hours, and in 2 hours she literally spilled her guts. Now, I really felt for the situation. I really wanted to make this happen for her. Time frame was her biggest key point. I didn't go back and negotiate her down, of course, which I easily could have, but didn't, because that lady deserved every dime she got. Okay, so the bottom line is this: is that went through, negotiated, got the contract, and then turn around and sold it in less than 24 hours to cash buyer that jumped on. I did exactly what I just told you to do. Now, in the next episode, I'm going to tell you exactly how I took the deal and expanded it with the buyer. It's like ninja negotiate. I'm telling you, I'll tell you in the next episode. I'm going to leave you with a little cliffhanger here, but you got to listen how we turned around. And we had the buyer contract, the seller contract, and we negotiated that contract up to a higher price, to $18,000 profit. And it's sick. So I want you to stay tuned until next week, and I'll tell you the entire story of the case study of how this worked, and how we put the thing together. Basically, it was a 1 week flip from the time we got the contract to the time we closed on the deal. It was an $18,000 deal, 1 week flip, and I'll tell you exactly how we took it from a smaller deal up to a larger deal by doing some ninja negotiating techniques. All right, that is it for this week. I had a couple of things I wanted to get into, but holy cow, I think this is going longer than I expected. So anyways, I hope you love this podcast. If you want more about Flip to Freedom podcast, please go to flip2freedom.com. You can get my book there at Flip to Freedom, and you can download that. It's a 129-page book. I know you're absolutely going to love it. I talk about negotiating techniques. I talk about how to find motivated sellers, how to find cash buyers. I talk about how to market. I talk about everything. Literally, I just lay everything on the line in that book, and I know you'll love it. So thank you again for being with me this week. And next week, I will talk about the ending of that $18,000 case study. And I've got some sick stuff I'm going to talk to you about next week. And what we're going to do next week is we're going to talk about what a successful real estate business looks like. I'm going to, basically explain what a successful real estate business looks like and how you can get there. Okay, the integral parts of it, putting the whole pieces together. And I'm going to tell you this: it's not a big operation. You can do it with a couple people, a team of people in place, but you don't have to have some big, huge office with employees. And no, you can live very, very comfortably flipping 2 or 3 deals a month, 4 deals a month, with just yourself and an assistant and a good escrow officer and a good realtor. If you could put those couple things together, then I'm going to show you exactly how you can make $15,000, $20,000 a month doing that, or even taking it to a bigger level if you'd like. All right, so I'll see you next week. Take care, and God bless.